what I want is I want everybody to meet you, right? So I would ask you who you are, but instead I'm gonna let you tell everybody who you are, who you are. Who is Billy Walker?
I'm just Billy Walker, aka Claiminator.
What's that mean?
That's all I got. We'll get into what that means eventually.
Okay, all right, Claiminator. All right. So so I got a couple of questions for you, right? Just to
Okay.
kind of break the ice. I'm gonna start with a true or false, right?
Okay.
I know you wear a lot of hats. You wear a lot of hats. You're a building consultant. You're a code spec. I can go. I'm gonna let you tell everybody. I'm not gonna get into all of it. But right now, I'm gonna challenge the guru. Okay.
All right.
Um, most insurance adjusters work for the property owner, not the insurance company. Is that true or false?
Most insurance companies?
Most insurance adjusters
Okay.
work for the property owner, not the insurance company.
True. I mean, excuse me, false.
Are you okay? You a little nervous?
False. I had to
Okay.
think of what you
Okay.
said. Yeah, that's
Right.
false.
I said most insurance adjusters.
Okay, I
So,
got you.
so you may need to explain to everybody what that really means.
Well, so insurance adjusters, they pretty much are the ones that are supposed to have knowledge with policy language. So basically, that's their boots on the ground. They send them out to inspect, take measurements, write an estimate, and then tell you as the policy holder whether your loss is a covered loss or a denied loss. So if
Okay.
it's not
So,
covered in the policy,
right. So, who are they working for? Are they working for you? Or are they working for the insurance company? Which one is it?
they're working for the insurance company.
Okay. So, how does the homeowner benefit from that?
They don't. They don't benefit at all.
Okay. What's
Basically, homeowners are responsible for the burden of proof.
oh,
So if you have some damage at your property and you think you can call your insurance company up and they're going to tell you what you need to do to make them pay you, that's not going to happen. You have to call them up and tell them what's going on in order for them to determine whether or not they should pay you. But they're not going to tell you how to do it.
all right. I got another question for you. What before we move on to the next one? What are and you don't have to give me just one or you give me as much as you want. First thing is, what are the pros from using their insurance adjusters, and what are the cons, if there is any?
Hmm. The pros using them to for a loss, there aren't many. I mean,
I'll drink. I'll drink to that.
I can't think of one because again, you as the policyholder, you're responsible for the burden of proof. So let me make it simpler. So if you wanted me to give you some money and I didn't want to give you any money, in order for you to change my position on giving you money, you have to prove to me why. And
Okay.
that's how it goes with the policyholder. They have to prove to the insurance company why they owe them money for their insurance loss.
Okay.
And if they don't do that, then that's a problem. And the only reason it's a problem is because in the policy, they have a section that's called conditions. And under that conditions section, there's a duty after loss. And within that duty after loss, it says that you have to explain the loss to them.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're saying in so many words, then you take what I give you is what you're saying. Like in other words, they give you what they want to give
Right.
you. Okay.
Exactly.
And it right. So the burden of proof is for you. If you need more or want more, you got to prove that.
Yes. And it's
Okay.
always best to prove it from the beginning. Make it where it's irrefutable. Whether you got to get an expert involved or whether you even have knowledge, just make sure you're explaining to them exactly what it is and why they owe.
I look. I wanted to move on, but every time you keep hitting me with a nugget. So okay. So how do you do that? I mean, like, what's some of the options that you can do to make sure to ensure that it happens?
Well, you gotta take pictures.
Okay.
Better to take them while it's going on. Like if you have water discharging from a pipe, stop and grab your phone. Take a picture, take a video of it. Kind of try to show them where the water is coming from. And then once you have that, kind of showing what is damaging while it's discharging from a pipe. That way, you can't deny it. You can't be denied if it's something that's happening currently. Even if after the fact you want to show the ensuing damage from the loss, then that will be the pictures you take after the fact. But you got to show the loss. You have to show the damage of the loss.
Okay. All right. So I guess the last two things I want to talk about with that, even though I wanted to move on to another question, but this is a question. But so two of the biggest things I see, right, and is would be roofs and wet basements, right? So because everybody's going to want to know about that, right? Roofs and wet basements. So let's start with which one you want to start with. Roof. I'll let you pick the poison.
We can start with the wet basement.
All right, let's go with the wet basements. All right. What's the main thing that can get a homeowner's claim excluded on a wet basement? Or a
Um,
couple of main things, whatever you come up with.
well, if you don't have like a sewer and backup or a sewer and drain endorsement, or you may have it and the limit is very low, say $5,000.
Okay, let me stop you. I went to public school. I don't know what the word endorsement means. What does that mean? I went to public
Uh,
school. You see, you private school guys, I don't know that word.
All right, so an endorsement is mainly when people think of endorsement, they think somebody's co-signing. But basically, what an endorsement in a policy means that you paid an additional amount per year to have a specific type of coverage, and that would
Okay,
be the sewer and backup.
okay, all right. So you got to have that coverage, and usually, I guess you're saying that the insurance company didn't automatically give that to you. That's something you have to add to your insurance policy.
Well, it depends on the policy. Some policies do have coverage built into coverage A, which is the first part of your policy. But if you don't have it, it's an additional expense that you can pay for to get it in your policy. So it just
Okay,
depends. Like Liberty Mutual have it and State Farm won't. So it just
okay,
depends on who you're insured by.
okay. All right. So you're saying, all right. So we can get excluded. Is there any other thing we could get excluded for on that wet basement?
Well, if the water hits the ground first and enters the property, is automatically excluded. So because groundwater is not covered in the policy, you have to have a flood insurance to potentially be covered for that.
Okay. So when you say groundwater, what constitutes groundwater?
Say for instance, you had a heavy storm and you were pooling on the side of your foundation, and the water seeped through your foundation wall and made it into the inside of your house. The fact that it hit the ground first, there's no coverage.
Okay. So most people they're going to have that issue with that areaway drain, at the bottom of the stairway, and I
Right.
see that all the time. Okay, so water that comes from the outside in, unless you can you get coverage for that though? Is there something you can get, or they just don't offer it at all?
Well, if it hits the ground, you would have to have flood insurance.
Okay,
But now, if you think areaway drain, if the areaway drain is blocked and it made it where it overflowed and came into the house, then that will be covered under the sewer backup and drain coverage
okay,
endorsement.
okay. Oh, last thing, because this sounds silly. So that also would include the sump pump then, right? Because that water is coming from the outside back into the house. So you
Right.
you would you would need the additional coverage for that. Yeah, because I had a friend that they called and they got denied because they said the sump pump backed up, right?
Hmm.
And they didn't cover them because they didn't have the policy coverage,
Okay.
you know. So it
Right.
cost them thousands to get that straightened out. All right,
Yeah.
so
And even with some pump coverage, you got to be careful with that because they'll set a limit. Like say, for instance, most sump pump coverage limits are at 10,000. And say you have your man cave down there in the basement, $10,000 won't even cover the mitigation.
okay, so um, okay, so someone like you could be a benefit to the homeowner, right? I guess, or in a situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, all you need to do is send me your policy. I'll review it and see if there's any coverage gaps, and we go from there. But I won't take on a claim that has where the coverage is so bad that me getting involved will financially harm them. I'd probably just tell them how to get something out of the insurance company because my
Okay,
fee would hurt the claim.
I got you. I got you. Not enough capital in there. All right,
Right.
so I'm gonna ask you another question. Which of these roles that have you not officially held? Right,
Okay.
building consultant A, B, property code inspector, C, public adjuster. In case people don't know what that is, they advocate for property owners against insurance companies, and D, an insurance company defense attorney.
Insurance company defense attorney.
You act like one.
Hey, don't say that too
Uh,
loud. They might start
so
calling
so
me.
so so now I want to go there with you on that, right? That was a setup question, so I could kind of head into something that I heard you say before
Okay.
in reference to you being a certified expert witness. Okay,
Right.
so what is your experience like that been like? Well, first of all, how long have you been one, and what's your experience of your some of your? You can give us some stories about your experience being a certified, being certified as an expert witness.
Yeah. Well, of course, the defense attorney works on behalf of the carrier, so they're going to use all those defense tactics that they know in cross examination and try to, loop questions, meaning they'll keep doubling back, hoping you'll give them a different answer. Um, and a lot of times they really don't know the policy. I've had an attorney where he was beating me down that a part of the policy didn't provide coverage, and he was reading the personal property section of the policy, and we were talking about the dwelling, and he thought he was right, and he was grilling until I had to, respectively tell him that that's under coverage D, which is personal property. I mean, excuse me, coverage C, which is personal property, and not coverage A. And he did not know. Actually, I had to happen twice. That happened twice. Two adjusters did the same thing.
So, from your experience as an expert witness, right? Um, I guess this is a good question, right? Kind of like a prize fighter, right? What percentages did you feel as though you came out on top? Because I know you can't win every fight. I don't think. Can you? Are you
Can't win
Floyd
every
Mayweather?
fight. Can't win every fight. I mean, and then you got to think you got to incorporate the judge in it too, because
Okay.
sometimes what happens is if you speak too technical and the judge don't understand, they automatically will tune you out, and they would develop their own position on what it is. And you got to remember, I'm going up against the big bad wolf. These are $1 billion industries, and I'm just, Mr. Got a little bit of money public adjuster walking in there acting like I got all the answers, and they're not trying to hear what I have to say. I'm not the one that can help them be voted for in the next campaign as the judge for the next 5 years. But the insurance company can, and they do. So I've had some unfair shakes when it came to litigation, but a lot of times after I have a deposition, because the deposition is so solid, they choose to settle instead of taking a chance put me on the stand in front of a jury. So
Wow.
it's only been twice where hasn't happened. Only twice.
Gotcha. All right. I'm gonna ask you another question. True or false? A denied insurance claim usually means the homeowner has no other options.
They have options. It just means that they denied the claim at that time.
Okay. Since we're gonna talk about that, there's a book out. Well, not a book, but there was a situation that occurred. Um, I don't know if I should get too deep into it, but the word deny,
Yeah.
delay, two words, deny and delay. What's that mean to you?
There's one more.
Okay.
D- Defend. Deny, delay, defend.
Deny, delay, defend.
Right.
Yeah. Um, what's your thoughts on that?
That's where the corruption is made up. It was a process that was created by a company that showed insurance companies how to bring in more money than they put out. And the process included denying claims, And then if the denial process didn't work exactly like they figured it would work, then go ahead and delay it, hoping that the policyholder will give up. And then if the policyholder is still there after that, then go ahead and defend it, which means they'll either, go to trial on the claim, on the loss.
Okay. Yeah, I brought that up because of that guy. I can't say no names, but he went on a rampage. Um, People got hurt, harmed, or whatever. I'm gonna leave it at that. And that was one of the things that he basically iterated, right? Um, Now, I mean, is that something that's widely known in your industry, or like do other, let's say, whether it's adjusters or public adjusters, are they aware of that terminology?
Uh, Attorneys are, and some of public adjusters are, but a lot of them don't bring it up, and I'm kind of confused why, because if you really pay attention to how it all started, you can put a timeline on when corruption started in property insurance, and it was in the 90s. And if you're familiar, you want to get into that?
Yeah, I'm going to get into whatever you want to get into.
Okay, well, back in 90 to 92, I don't know if you're familiar with Enron, the Enron scandal.
I'm vaguely familiar with it. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
Enron,
well,
everybody. Yeah,
yeah, a lot of people lost money because of Enron, and a lot of those guys ended up going to prison for fraud and conspiracy and all the other things they were doing. Now, what Enron was doing is they were taking advantage of their clients, and it was the same thing. How can we bring in more money without having to put out more money to our clients? So, how that's a connection to insurance is there was a company called McKinsey and Company that taught Enron how to do that. That same company, McKinsey and Company, is the same company that also showed the insurance company how to do it. And one of the first insurance companies that did it was Allstate. And then after it started working for Allstate, then all the other insurance companies started piggybacking off of it. And the main tactic was deny the claim. Deny, delay, defend. Is deny the claim, delay it, or defend it. And it's a process. I actually have a copy of the McKinsey files. And these were some files that came up in discovery in a court hearing. And it mapped out, it's a process. It's just like if you play football and you got your play sheet, it was just like that. Exactly like it. This is what you do when you have this. If they're fighting you back on this part of the claim, then you do this. And you just move through the steps until you get to the point where the insurer is the one that usually ends up winning in the end. And still today, in 2026, if you deal with any insurance company, and I challenge any policyholder to do this. If you had a policy with State Farm and now you with Liberty Mutual and you've had claims for both of them, take a second to think whether or not they handled that claim in the same manner. And if you say yes, that's because they're following the McKinsey files. And that's what it is. So it's been going on since like the 90s, early 90s.
wow,
Yeah.
wow,
And
yeah,
when I first started public adjusting, I I used to think that all the insurance companies sat in on the same staff meeting because the procedures they were doing were identical. And I was like, well, hold up, they're all competitors. How are they all handling claims in the same manner? Come find out, all of them was following the McKinsey files. I mean, like a book. Every step of the way. Oh, if you can't get them, defend yourself. What do you defend yourself with? Let's hire an engineer. Why you hire an engineer? Because then we can use what's called plausible deniability, where you can't sue us because we used an expert. So if you have any problem with what the expert came up with, you need to sue them. That was the person we hired to do this for us. So that keeps their nose clean. That's what we call plausible deniability. And it works more than it doesn't, unfortunately.
that definitely makes sense because um, a lot of times homeowners they don't have the patience nor or the resources sometimes, and sometimes it's a financial strain or burden, and they can't afford the legal representation, so they just give up. So I totally get that.
And that's part of the defend part. You know, when
Okay.
we can pay $4,000 for a forensic engineer, but you can't. So and then when they send the forensic engineer, the claim pretty much gets denied, and they base their opinion off of what the expert provided them.
Well, you got me thinking, right? Now, and I could be wrong on this, but hey, if they're paying a structural engineer or any kind of engineer, right, just to discredit that, that comes at thousands, right?
Yeah,
Thousands of dollars, right? So it would make me suspicious that if you was willing to spend that much to deny the claim or reduce the claim, then when you could have just given me that money, how much more money do you actually really owe me?
right,
You
right.
know what I mean? If you go through those extremes to spend that much money, there must be a lot more money on the table.
It usually is. And then on top of that, in addition to that, homeowners usually don't know because when they have a claim, this is part of the whole tactic. First thing they say is, "Do you need mitigation?" And of course, the homeowner is going to say, "Yeah, my house is wet, my stuff is ruined, I don't know what to do." The insurance company sends out one of their guys. Then, while the mitigation is going on, then they'll say, "Oh, have you spoken to a contractor yet?" Then the insurance company sends out the contractor. All these guys are within the insurance program. They have an agreement with them. We're going to load you with a ton of work. And if we do that, if we tell you your price needs to be X amount of dollars, you better make your price X amount of dollars or we're not referring any more work to you. So they have to agree to limit the scope that they do. Like they'll say, "Oh, you don't need to tear this wall down. You can just dry in place. You can cut a couple holes in the bottom of the wall and dry in place." But then behind the wall, you got a bunch of wet insulation that they don't address. Now, had the homeowner hired their own mitigation contractor and had them come out, they're more or less are going to do it by the standard. Now, these guys that work for an insurance company, you got to remember, they're trying to figure out how to do things at the least amount. So they're going to come in there and half-ass it, for lack of better words. And that's what it is because they know if their estimate is written too good to benefit the policyholder, then the insurance company will no longer provide them any work. And they're trying to basically don't bite the hand that feeds them.
Yeah.
That's where the corruption comes in, part of it.
Okay. That's wow.
Yeah. And it happens
So
more than it doesn't. So,
I got to
to finish that off, though, so the homeowner never really understands that they're being taken advantage of because they're using the insurance company's mitigation company, the insurance company's preferred vendor. They never see the numbers because all the money goes to them. So they have no clue whether they're being taken advantage of or not because they're allowing the insurance company to handle the whole process from beginning to end. But in
okay.
the end, they have problems down the road. And what can you say?
Wow. So you're saying so let's just say this. Let's say it was your son or your daughter and they had a situation. What would be your recommendation to them? I mean, what steps would you tell them to take? I'm talking about forget about getting they didn't even get denied. Uh the house, I don't know, something happened. The pipe busted, the roof leaked or whatever. What steps would you tell them to take? Like the first couple steps.
First couple steps is stop what you're doing, take a picture of what's going on, or better still, take your phone, put it on video, stand in the middle of the area where the damage is going on, and just do a 360-degree so you can show everything in there, and then later on take pictures to show what got damaged, and then of course close up photos or video of where the damage is happening, like say it was a burst pipe or whatever. And then I would suggest call either a building consultant or a public adjuster first.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
way they can start it from the beginning instead of coming in.
What about contractors? Should they contact a contractor too, or
If they need to contact a contractor to stop what's happening, they can do that. Like say, for instance, you got to call a plumber to prevent the pipe from leaking any further. Then okay, yes, do that. Because the policy states that they have a duty to protect their home from further damage. So
so?
if it's a burst pipe, call a plumber, have them come in, fix the pipe, and then that's start documenting the damage.
So what happens if they? I mean, is there a timetable on that? Like, should they? If they've got that going on, I don't know, the roof leak or whatever. Like, how long should they act on that before
I
they
mean,
act on that?
of course, you want to act as soon as possible. Especially if it's like a sudden and accidental event. So you want to address it immediately. Because again, if you delay the process, then the insurance company will assume that you didn't follow the conditions under the policy, and that you basically didn't do what you need to do reasonably to protect your home from further damage. But
Well,
technically, statute of limitations in Maryland is 3 years, so you can
okay.
still argue that the
Well,
policy doesn't define reasonable, and unless it defines it, they can't hold it against you.
okay. Well, I did ask that for a reason, because I was just thinking about some of the things I see in the field, right? And I can tell it's been going on for a long time. And I may have a conversation with them or not. I might say, hey, have you reached out to anyone or whatever? How long has this been going on? I have seen them, still get compensated. I don't know, what channels they went through. I don't know if they hired a public adjuster or whatever. But that's the only reason I asked that question. I just wanted to know. I wanted more clarification on that.
Yeah, it
Um,
depends because all policies aren't written the same. So if they got some limits within their policy that can affect them, like say for instance, a nationwide policy only allows you to notify a hell claim within a year. So if you notify it outside of a year of the date of loss, they won't cover it. It's automatically denied.
okay. Okay,
So it
that's
just
good.
depends on the policy.
That's what I was talking about. Okay, so I got another question for you. Okay, this is a multiple choice question. When dealing
Okay.
with property damage, right? What typically costs property owners the most money long term? A, filing the claim. B, waiting too long to act. C, hiring help. D, asking too many questions.
You said what caused them what? What's the question?
Cost them long term, cost them the most long term when it comes to money, right? What's the long term cost? If they, A, filing a claim. B, waiting too long to act. C, hiring help. D, asking too many questions. And that's
Mm,
when dealing with property damage, what typically costs the property owners the most money long term?
uh, that's kind of a trick question. I mean, there's really, long as you're operating within the statute and the limit doesn't exist in the policy, the only thing that changes about the money is the market value that changes over the years or months throughout that year. You still have a right to that money.
Right. Well, I don't even know um, if there's really a right or wrong in this question, but um, you know, long term, right? If the meaning, I guess that really means it means if they delay the process, right? What would probably cost them the most long term, money wise? Um, and so they of course filing the claim, they say, which that doesn't make sense. Waiting too long to act, hiring help, or asking too many questions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question part, you're not going to get anything out of that, especially
No.
being the one that has the burden of proof. Um, Contractors, I mean, so it's kind of a trick question because if the carrier is involved and you're using them for the claim purpose, you might be in dispute. And say, for instance, that dispute does say, let's just say you're going back and forth fighting for a fire. And you look up one day and you're like, damn, this is year 3. What am I going to do? Because the amount of time is based on the date of loss. So if you have a fire and you're still fighting 3 years later, you're going to have to file a motion to the court to put a motion to stay, which means they're not going to allow it to expire while you continue fighting the claim. So it just depends. It
So
just depends.
do you think that the longer you wait, or the longer the longer it takes, I would think that would run your cost up, right? Like if like, even if you're fighting legally, right? Um, like with smoke
Yeah.
or with anything else, the contractors' prices would start to rise, be, because I don't know if the basement stayed wet longer than it should, or any of those type of things. I'm
Yeah,
assuming. Like I
yeah.
said,
Well, yeah. If the
there's no
basement
real.
stayed wet, if the basement stayed wet longer than it should, then that would extend the mitigation timeline. Like you probably can't. I don't know. For some reason, insurance companies think that everything can be dried in 3 days, and that's not possible. It's not based on a time. It's based on the conditions at the property.
Yeah, yeah. There's certain protocols, and even when I charge for 3 days, I usually leave my equipment in there for 5 days. You,
Right,
you know what I mean? Because
right,
what I found is that a lot of times construction determines that, right? It could be dead spots, right?
right,
That the air scrubbers or hydroxyl generator, whatever I'm using, equipment I'm using doesn't hit those nooks and crannies, right? And it
right.
needs a little more time, right? And
Right.
I'll reposition the machines and airflow and all that kind of stuff and redirect it to make sure, right? So I don't I charge for the 3 days and I usually leave it in there for five,
Right.
5 days. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
that's even part of their plausible deniability tactics. Uh, like say, for instance, if they bring out independent adjuster or staff adjuster to inspect, and mitigation is part of it, they won't even address it. They say we have to send it to our mitigation department, which is usually a TPA, which is a third party authorization company that works under the umbrella of the insurance company as a preferred vendor. And they have one job to figure out how to make your mitigation less than it needs to be so the insurance company doesn't have to pay the full amount. That's one job. That's their job. And it works more than it doesn't. And the reason being is because mitigation contractors and roofing contractors and what have you, they like fast money. So they don't want to take the time to fight a claim. They want to move on to the next project and get the money off of that. But then when they take a second to look back and see, they're like 6 figures in the hole from the money that the insurance company was able to beat out of them because they didn't want to take the time to fight it correctly. Whether they do them themselves or whether they hire somebody else to do it for them, they don't want to do it. They want the
gotcha.
money. Yeah.
Ooh. All right. I got a true or false question for you. Mister, you wear so many different hats, right? So your knowledge base is like out of this stratosphere. So now we're going to go to your code inspection, because you are a code inspector. Okay.
Right.
Building codes can change the value of insurance claim even after damage has already happened.
True. True.
Okay.
But it's very particular. So let's go back to mitigation. If you have a water loss that say happened on the second floor and made it all the way down into the basement, more than likely all the walls are going to be affected by that. Even in the exterior walls where there's insulation, that insulation is going to be wet from the top to the bottom, from the ceiling to the floor, which means all those walls have to be open down to the 2x4s, the studs. When you open the wall up and it's to the studs, you automatically have to bring that wall up to code. Now, building code companies want to make you tear a wall down to bring it up to code. But if that wall's already open, what's stopping you from bringing it up to code? And they're going to require that. Provided, some people don't pull building permits, but we're talking about people that do it the right way.
Okay. I got a question. So, like what you're saying is they open up the wall, and let's just say back when the house was built, the requirements was 24 inches on center, right?
Right,
Now the new requirements are 14, 16 inches on center, right?
right,
They would have to make those necessary changes. They're supposed to,
exactly.
I mean.
Because there's no reason that they can't. The wall's open. Like they can't say tear that wall down. We know it's 24 inches on center. It needs to be 16. You got to open this wall up and do that. They can't tell you to do that. But it's another caveat to that. Your policy has to have code upgrade coverage, or else the insurance company won't pay for it.
Oh,
Now, here's the biggest mistake in the game, and this burns public adjusters, building consultants, and all the above. A lot of these guys don't know the difference between code compliance and code upgrade. Totally separate. They do not mean the same exact thing. Code compliance is what's worked into your coverage A automatic. Code upgrade means it's not there and it should be there, and there's an enforcement that demands it to be there. So in order for the insurance company to cover that expense, they have to have code upgrade coverage, which is usually 10% of coverage A. Even
Mm,
insurance carriers, adjusters don't even know the difference most of the time. They think everything falls under code upgrade, and it doesn't.
wow.
Yeah, it's
So
bad.
is that something that can be added to your policy, or is it already written in, or how does that work?
You can add it. Yeah, you can add it. Most are written in. See, when it comes to policies, I mean, trust me, the insurance companies play their games, right? But I gotta blame it on the agent. The agent should know better. They're the ones that should know. Okay, you got you're living in $1 million house in Woodmore, wherever, and then they turn around and they put $10,000 siding and roofing endorsement on an 80 square roof. $10,000 is only going to buy the material. So why would you put a $10,000 limit on, you know, roof and siding? And then what
Right.
happens is when the person files a claim, there's not enough money, and there's nothing you can do because that endorsement, that limit exists on the roof and siding. I mean, excuse me, yeah, the roofing and siding materials and installation. So it's not a good look. I blame the agent. They should know better. But the reason why that is happening is there was a time where somebody came to your house every time and inspected before they actually allowed policy on your property. Now a lot of these guys are just doing everything based on a phone call or online. You fill out a form online, and then 3 days later your insurance is effective, or in the hour your insurance is effective. They never looked at anything. They didn't see the condition of your roof. They don't know what type of materials you have in your property. All those things dictate how much coverage you should have on your house. I'll give you an example. You could have, sorry, you could have you can have carpet in your kitchen. Not in your kitchen. Carpet in your living room, and or you could have luxury vinyl plank. Carpet is less than luxury vinyl plank. So the whole thing of the agent is to do a valuation on your property to determine what your coverage A should be and how much coverage you need to cover the property. If they never look at it, then that means that your policy is undervalued and you don't get a fair shake. So I blame the agent. They're not taking the time. And another thing that happens too is if you're buying an existing property, and sometimes people buy houses as is, if you have a roof loss, like you have water coming in and shingles missing and all that from wind damage, sometimes it might already be creasing and such in your roof, and the insurance company will cover that property. Or you might have patches from like a prior repair on your roof. The insurance company covers that property. But then when you have an insurance loss that deals with wind and water damage, they'll come out and they'll use that against you and say it's not warranted to cover that damage because it's pre-existing. But the problem is you insured the property in this condition. Or another one they use too on them is faulty workmanship. Oh, we can't pay for this, and we're gonna have to deny the claim because it's slip shingles, and those slip shingles are due to faulty workmanship.
Wow.
And that's not good because you never inspected the property, and when you put a policy on the house, you absorb that liability, which means you have to pay. And a lot of homeowners don't know that, and they just accept the denial instead of deciding to fight it with a public adjuster or a building consultant.
Wow. So before I move on to the next question, I wanted to ask you two things about that I've seen like on exteriors, right, of homes. I've seen a lot of bad siding, right, and I've seen a lot of shingle um, patch jobs, right, on the roofs. Um, So my question to you is, like the siding is mismatched in color. What kind of advice would you give a homeowner in a situation with a siding issue or roof covering, like the shingles are flying off and that kind of stuff?
Never do a mismatch. Never do. Always use compatible materials. So basically, there's a ton of roofs that have shingles that have a warranty of 20 years, and they don't make a 20-year shingle anymore. So if you go up there and you patch the roof, the only thing you're going to be able to patch it with is a 25-year shingle or better. That's an incompatible patch. Now, building code requires a shingle to not only be compatible with the shingles that are around it, but also the building. Meaning, if there's a lot of times the insurance company likes to only pay per piece. They don't look at it as a system. It's a roofing system. It's a siding system. It's a flooring system. And in order to get true indemnification, which is to put you back to pre-loss condition, you can't have a slope that's 25-year shingles and then have a rear slope that's 20-year shingles. That's not pre-loss condition. The shingles all were uniform before the loss. And if they were uniform before the loss, true indemnification would state that they have to be uniform after the loss. So even if there's no damage on the rear slope and it's all on the front slope, you still have to replace the rear slope. Somewhere along the way, the insurance companies forgot that. They forgot what the meaning of indemnification means. They don't care. One of the two, or both.
So what you're saying, I guess, for the novice out here, right? The beginner who wouldn't know, don't know nothing about building science. They don't know nothing about a building envelope and what that means. Um, that's like, for example, you're saying there's Nike siding, right, and an Adidas roof cover, right,
Right.
and that Adidas is the, I don't know, a 19 whatever um, Michael Jordan. Well, Michael Jordan's Nike, but anyway, it's Adidas. Let's say Tracy McGrady, whoever the player is, tennis shoe, right, or sweatsuit, or whatever it is. Now that siding or that roof cover has to come back with the same Michael Jordan or Tracy McGrady, right,
Right.
material. And what happens is they no longer make it, right? They make it in cycles, right? Well, they no longer make it. It's discontinued, right?
Right.
So if that happens and it's discontinued, what should they do? You can't match it. The color's not going to match, right?
Right.
And you said it's a
Well,
25-year-old shingle versus a 20-year shingle.
right. Right. So basically, so even like think of it like patching a Air Jordan into an Air Max assembly. It's not the same shoe.
Right.
So which means it's not compatible. You make an Air Jordan or let's say Air Force One. You make an Air Force One different than you make an Air Max. It's a different look, different style. Maybe it has a different stitching, whatever. It has to be compatible. Totally different shoe. Same thing with siding or roofing. Like according to code, this is written into code. It has to be compatible because you got to think. And you said building assembly. When you think of a building assembly, think of you going swimming and you put on a water cap to keep your hair from getting wet. Those materials serve that same purpose. They're trying to keep water out of your property, and so you don't have any types of water intrusion. Same thing happens with siding. If you use one type of siding versus another type of siding, the nailing hems are different. The locking mechanism is different. Like one siding won't lock into new siding, won't lock into old siding, or it might even have a projection. Like, and that projection could be a 16th of an inch, but even a 16th of an inch will allow water to get in. And once the water gets in, then of course capillary action and suction starts. And then next thing you know, you're on 30 foot of one side of the wall, and now all of a sudden you got 30 foot of water on the opposite side of the wall because
Okay.
it absorbed into the materials. And it's all waterproofing. The house, the building envelope serves one purpose: keep the elements out. Elements can be water, wind, fire, whatever. It serves one purpose.
Okay, so once again, for Harry homeowner, they don't know those fancy words, capillary action, all
Yeah.
that suction. So you need to break
Okay.
that down
All right.
and yeah, simplify that for us.
Okay. Capillary suction action. The best way I can explain it, and people think that, all right, so you think of gravity. When you think of gravity, you think down, right?
Right.
So people look at capillary action as the only thing in the world that can defy gravity. And I'll give you example of that. You take a glass of water, you take a paper towel, and you lay the paper towel in the water. You can have like a half inch of water in the glass. You lay that paper towel, the bottom of that paper towel in the water, and you come back maybe 10, 15 minutes later, you only had a half inch of water, but that whole paper towel is wet. So it's actually absorbed all the way from the bottom to the point where the paper towel reached equilibrium, which means it reached its most moisture absorbent point, and you only had a half inch of water. Same thing happens with houses. Same exact thing in the materials.
So that's like a form of like absorption or seepage.
Yeah, it's absorbed, it's suction
Okay.
because a paper towel is real porous. It will keep sucking into more pores until it reaches equilibrium, which means the max point of moisturization.
Okay.
Think of the same thing. You think of a face towel. Face towel's half wet, and you come back and you lay it on the edge of the tub to dry out. Before it dries out, the rest of that towel is going to be 100% saturated through capillary suction.
I got you.
They think it's something that's defying gravity, but it's not. It's just capillary suction. Now, here's the thing: when water gets onto a specific type of material, it can be 50 feet away. So one of the things insurance companies always fight me about is, how are you saying water got to the other side of the room, but this is the location where the water came in? Capillary suction. That's how it happened. It's the only explanation. There is no other explanation scientifically or forensically that explains it other than capillary suction.
Okay. I got it now. All right. Got a true or false question for you. One of the other hats that you've wore or you wear. So let's talk about public adjusters. Public adjusters, true or false, are hired by insurance companies to speed up claim payouts.
False.
So,
They don't want
so,
you.
so who hires the public adjuster?
The policyholder.
Okay.
So the adjusters that the insurance send out are the boots on the ground that advocate on their behalf. The insurance company doesn't have anybody other than a public adjuster or somebody who's very familiar in buildings. So you want a building consultant that wears.
You said the insurance company. Wait, let's get clarification. You said the insurance company, they do or don't hire public adjusters.
They don't hire public adjusters.
Okay, well, what kind? They have adjusters, right? What's their title?
Independent adjusters. They're third party guys who.
Okay, so let's get this clear. So the independent adjuster works for the insurance company, and the public adjuster is the one that advocates for the policyholder or property owner who has the insurance policy. Okay,
Right.
all right. Got another question for you. Which property damage claim is most commonly underpaid or denied? Roof damage, water damage, fire damage, or all of the above?
All the above.
Okay.
All the above. It all boils down to who you get. Like for me, I would rather deal with the guy who can write $100,000 check than the guy who has a limit of writing a $10,000 check. That $10,000 check guy doesn't know a thing. They're fresh in the game. Everything is peer reviewed. They don't know nothing about construction. They probably only done 15 claims and everything was a yay or nay situation. Yes, you can give them 2 coats of paint. Nope, you got to give them one. Yes, you can pull that baseboard off and replace it. Nope, you got to detach and reset it. They have no authority. Even the guys who can write the $100,000 check don't have so much authority, but they've been in the game long enough to understand when you come at them and negotiate with them why this has to be replaced or detached and reset, they understand. But these newer guys, they don't know.
So what you're talking about is their knowledge base, I'm assuming, right? Their knowledge
Right.
base. Well, if someone is looking, actively seeking, how do they determine, um, like what tips or pointers can you give someone to determine, a professional's knowledge base? What should they look for?
I think every person that's an adjuster and writes an estimate should understand the materials that they're writing about in that estimate. If you don't know how a roof goes together, why are you writing a roof plan? If you don't know how to set floor joists and that in order the subfloor needs to be 3/4 inch tongue and groove plywood that needs to be glued and screwed, right? Why are you writing an estimate about a subfloor? Doesn't make sense. You're writing about something you have no knowledge in, but yet somebody has a loss at their property and they're counting on you to cover their damage. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. That's not fair.
So how should the property owner, how should they screen who they hire? What steps should they take? What should they look for? What's the red flags? And then what's the green light?
On the public adjuster end,
Yeah, public, if they're going to hire or building consultant or
yeah,
tradesmen in our profession, what should they look
yeah,
for? Because you wore so many hats. You built commercial properties. You've done residential. So so I look at all of that. It kind of encompasses all of that world.
right.
What
Well,
what are the things, just a couple tips and pointers that you would
yeah.
give them, you know?
Well, the policyholders, they don't have any knowledge. All they know is my house is messed up and I want it back like it used to be. So the guy who can come in and they speak more technical about what's going on, that's probably the guy that has a little bit more knowledge about it. If a guy is coming in, they're giving you the limited amount of information and their only focus is just to get you to sign their agreement, that's the one you want to get more in depth with and ask questions. Get on Google, get on Chat GPT, get on something and find out what's the process for when you're hiring a public adjuster. Some public adjusters are lazy as hell and clueless. They never picked up a hammer, so they don't understand. Basically, those type of public adjusters are the ones you need to look out for because you know where their knowledge came from? The insurance company. They learned what the insurance company will pay and won't pay. And that's what they base their knowledge on. Wouldn't you rather have somebody that knows from putting together a flooring system, putting together a roofing system, somebody who could technically pick that whole roof apart and explain to a novice adjuster or superior adjuster why you need to replace all the plywood and install 7/16 inch plywood with plywood clips versus leaving 3/8 plywood on the roof with no plywood clips. If you don't understand that, why the hell are you even dealing with the decking on the roof? You don't even know what it's for, but yet you're telling somebody how much a loss should cost, and you have no clue of what it takes to put their house back together. That's not fair to the policyholder. So you want somebody who has a strong sense of knowledge, or even ask them what do they specialize in? What type of claims have they done? Have you done mostly roofs? Have you done a lot of water losses? Do you have IICRC certification? Do you have any building envelope type of certification? They want to ask those questions. And if they say the majority of those answers is no, find somebody else. Call the Claiminator. I'm here for you.
And we're gonna get to who the Claiminator is shortly. So I got like one or two more questions. If insurance companies were 100% transparent with you, Billy Walker, right?
Mhm.
Um, would you spend more? You'd probably spend more time doing what? Traveling, traveling, B, consulting on AI, C, teaching property owners, D, needing a new career. If they were more transparent, if they told the truth, no
Yeah.
shadiness,
Yeah.
you
If they told the truth and there was no shadiness, then I would have to find a new career because they would put me out of business.
I want you to remember that. So when you get these confrontations with these people, you need to keep that in the back of that mind.
Right.
So now I got a question for you. You mentioned something about, some artificial intelligence for the homeowner or whatever, but let's talk about you. Um, do you use artificial intelligence? And if so, um, um, has it strengthened your business?
Oh hell yeah! I use AI every day, most of the day, for every purpose. Like, okay, so I remember a time where I used to spend hours online trying to put together the perfect rebuttal letter, trying to put together my concerns letter. What are my concerns about the estimate that you wrote and why it doesn't meet today's standards? Hours and hours and hours and hours. I'm good at explaining it. So now with Chat GPT, I just explain it. We have a intimate conversation. It's like I'm talking to you right now. Look, chat, man, look, they doing me grimy. Here's their estimate. Here's mine. Do a comparison and tell me what they missed and what I didn't. Well, where's the comparison? Okay, Billy. Boom, spits it out to me in less than a minute, and then I go through it. Can't take everything at face value because at the end of the day, it's how they say, crap in, crap out. If you put in crap, you're gonna get crap out. But you gotta look at it. You gotta review it. You gotta look it over. Make sure it makes sense. And everything I do. Then I got to the point where I advanced in AI. Now certain things are my process. I've automated it by creating a bot in Chat GPT, and all I got to do is ask it to do one thing, upload the document, and it does it for me within seconds. I
Well,
don't have to spend time on it anymore.
well let's. I'm gonna let the people know. So the people. So this guy here, he's a certified AI consultant. He's a certified code inspector, a building consultant, public adjuster, a builder, custom home builder, a musician. I mean, I just, I mean,
Architectural
I mean,
designer.
you know, I'm, I don't know how that brain holds all that stuff. I mean, how you maintain all that? Now, what I want you to talk about, whatever you want to talk about, really, right? As far as the industry, right, that you're in, right? Um, is it something that you would encourage? I guess younger people to get into it, um, and especially now that they do have AI. I mean, I think you could fast track them, right? They could fast track.
Yeah,
Um,
but if you have attorney like tendencies, yes. But if not, do something else. Because you're gonna burn out. I mean, they play so many games. So here's the thing: it's like sports. If one team beats you in a specific way, all the coaches and everything they come up with a different plan, or they'll change the process. That's the same thing that the insurance company does. They move the goalposts on it. Once they figure out how you get them, they change the policy up, and then you got to restructure on how you do things. So if you're not thick skinned. I mean, I've had adjusters call me all kinds of names, Mister Know It All, not to be, asshole, whatever, what they call passive aggressive. They've called me all these names because when I get to the point where they realize, oh shit, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Now, instead of being professional with me, they start being ignorant, trying to take me out of my character so they have something to use against me. And most of the time, what I do is I just put together a nice little Chat GPT letter and send it to the CEO and say, this is how your adjuster is conducting business in policyholders' properties. And a lot of times they do things. If you one up them, they do things that are arbitrary and capricious. But the only thing about it is you have the Maryland Insurance Administration that's supposed to regulate these insurance companies, and they don't. And a lot of the things that these adjusters do are arbitrary and capricious, but it's so hard to prove it. And when you file a complaint against them, it goes nowhere. And that's because these billion-dollar industries sit on the advisory boards of these departments of insurance. So you're not going to get anything out. They'll tell you things like, oh, we'll take it to appraisal. Why? If you got a roof and the roof only costs $7,000, and the appraisal is going to cost 4, why would you take it to appraisal? But this is the advice you're getting from the Department of Insurance. They don't say, "Oh, let me give them a call. I don't think that's fair." I've filed, I know, at least over 30 complaints, and nothing came out every single one. They
So
don't they don't even they don't even give you the common courtesy to reach out to you and give you the result of their investigation. They don't investigate.
so you mentioned something about appraisal. What exactly is that, and what is it? What is an appraisal like for the for the regular Joe? Like they
Right.
probably won't know what that means.
Okay. So most people think of appraisal before you buy a house. It is about an amount. It's about the value of the property based on whatever assessments the appraiser does. An insurance appraisal, depending on what state you're in, it's a dispute. Most of the time, it's a dispute between the amount. So basically, if the public adjuster wrote an estimate or the building consultant wrote an estimate and the insurance company wrote an estimate, and there's say a $30,000 difference, and that means there's a dispute with the amount. So what happens is in the policy, it allows you to invoke what's called appraisal, which is a alternative dispute resolution instead of spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars hiring an attorney. And
Okay,
what happens is the policyholder can name their appraiser, their go-to guy, to represent them in the appraisal, and the insurance company can hire their person. Those two people negotiate with one another after agreeing on a specific umpire. So umpire is kind of like arbitration. Umpire is kind of like that person that kind of just hangs in the cut until you need them or if you need them. The ideal is for the two appraisers to come to some sort of agreement on what the amounts should be, basically based on minimum standards, manufacturing installation instructions, building code, what have you. Now, that's how it's supposed to be. And you're supposed to be impartial, which means you can't mirror the contract. If you're on the policyholder side, you can't mirror the contractor or the roofing contractor's estimate. You got to come up with your own estimate based on your own valuation. On the carrier side, you can't mimic the engineer or the insurance company adjuster's valuation documentation. You have to come up with your own. And then based on that, on your own information, you're supposed to negotiate what the final amount is to be. Now,
okay,
if you can't negotiate what the final amount is supposed to be, then you have to present everything that you presented to one another to the umpire. And the umpire is supposed to take a look at everything and then base their decision on what the final amount should be on all. And they're only supposed to rule on what the differences are. They get that wrong. They start from the beginning, and sometimes they take stuff away, like stuff that me and the opposing appraiser have agreed on. You send it to the umpire, and the umpire will remove items. But the umpire job is supposed to make a decision on what the dispute is. The dispute is the items that we can agree on. So that's even corrupt. Now, the one thing about that is there's only two rules. You're supposed to have either a construction background, a public adjuster background, or some type of architectural background in order to be considered an appraiser, and you're supposed to be impartial. Those are the only two rules with appraisal. Now, what happens is the carrier still tells their appraiser what they can and can't pay for, which makes them that doesn't make them impartial. Like, say, I'll give you an example. Most carrier appraisers, when you have a roof only claim where it just involves replacing the shingles on the roof, they're not allowed to put overhead and profit on the price. But nowhere in the policy does it state overhead and profit is excluded. This is a internal guideline. This isn't a policy agreement. Anything outside the policy doesn't pertain. You can't change the policy on the fly. Even though you're still in appraisal, the policy still pertains. Even though you're in appraisal, it still pertains. But they tell them, like I had a guy tell me, I'll never put overhead and profit on a roof. And I asked him why. And he refused to answer the question because he knew it doesn't exist in the policy. So appraisal, I don't suggest anybody go to appraisal unless you can find an umpire that is 100% impartial and will be fair and doesn't take sides based on the person that gives them the most work.
Okay, so now the umpire is kind of like a judge, right? Basically, like in court or something like that. They're like a judge, but they're not a judge.
Right.
Now, what happens if that doesn't work out, right? You don't get what you want, an appraisal. Is there other steps, or is it just
Nah,
over?
you're done. That's why I
Wow.
don't suggest it. It's binding. Whatever, and only way you can get the award overturned is if you can prove that there was some sort of corruption or something arbitrary and capricious that went down during the appraisal process by one of the three. Other than that, if you're just mad because you wanted $80,000 and they only want to give you eight, that's not good enough. Because the way they look at it is, well, you two guys agreed on this umpire. Now that he's not paying you 80,000, how you gonna get mad at him? You agreed on it. So that's the thing. You gotta be careful. You got to make sure that they're impartial and they're fair. If they're not, keep it moving. Keep moving. And it's bad to say this, but you don't want to use anybody that the insurance company presents to you. They're all working on behalf of them. I don't care who it is, contractor, mitigation, framing I don't care who it is, appraiser, engineer, their building consultant, whoever works on the carrier side, trust and believe me, they are not going to bite the hand that feeds them. It's just not going to happen. And you won't get a fair shake. I don't care. I mean, you will, but you have to sue, and then you're out of money. Most attorneys are charging 40% to take it to litigation.
Wow.
So you're out of 40% off the top right there.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it, especially if it's a small claim.
Yeah. And then if you have a consultant or anyone else, you have to pay them their percentage as well.
Right. And the percentage goes to the public adjuster. Public adjuster is guaranteed usually 10%. I tell my guys just to pay me, for my time. Don't make it where the homeowner is financially harmed by trying to pay me. And sometimes I say, don't worry about it. Don't pay me. I'm good. Just go ahead and get whatever you're going to get out of it. If that lowers it down to 30%, then go ahead and charge them 30%. Don't worry about paying me. Because at the end of the day, it's about them, not me. I'm not on the deed, so I don't have any vested interest in the property. So if there's nothing there and they're going to be harmed by it, I don't want any money off the claim.
Got you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you think, um, like as far as the artificial intelligence, right? What areas of your business has has it bolstered? Has it helped? Has it lightened your load? Has it cut your cost and your overhead?
Oh, pretty much almost all of it. Like I said, the time you spend on writing letters, research, creating apps that enhances your automation, all the above. I mean, if and even with the let's take Xactimate. Xactimate has AI software that runs inside of it, and while you're doing your estimate, it's looking at you. And then when you get to the end of the estimate, it says, "Hey, you forgot this, you forgot that." Sometimes that what you forgot could increase the claim by an additional four figures. You're not even thinking about it because you're trying to get the estimate done, or it might have just skipped your mind. And the AI that's running in the background while you're doing your estimate is telling you, oh, well, look, if you're removing a sink, how come I don't see angle stops and supply lines in your estimate?
Wow.
It's paying attention to what you're doing as you're building the estimate. So it's simple things like that.
So who did that pretty logo I'm staring at? That backdrop you got going on there?
That's
That
all me, man.
you
I
you
do all
did
my
you
own
draw?
graphics
You
using
drew?
AI.
Okay, I didn't think your paintbrush was that good.
My paintbrush is that good, but AI can do it a lot quicker. So my time is limited. So since my time is limited, I just come up with the idea. Like I said, crap in, crap out. I can pretty much create almost anything that with AI, and the things that I don't create with AI, I use AI to create it with Python. So
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'll use other types of softwares as well, or programming, I guess I should say.
So it's You had anything else you want to touch on, Mr. Walker?
All I'm going to say is just be careful. Don't think because you got a college degree and you're a Harvard graduate that you can combat these insurance companies. They have a process and they are to stick with that process. And if you don't know it and you're not familiar with policies, I don't care how good you are and how smart you are, it's not going to work for you. You have to understand what's going on, or you're going to be the next victim of the insurance scam. This is a national scam. And this is how I tell you, I know a lot of public adjusters across the nation. Every single one of us had the same problems with the insurance company, whether you're in California, Georgia, New York, Maryland, Florida, it's all the same. If you pay attention to the news, there's a big scam going on with State Farm right now in Oklahoma where they created a hell initiative. They scam policyholders out of billions of dollars by denying or low paying their health claims. And it's happening right now. So don't try to sue me for slander or any of that. Look it up. It's going on right this second. And they also have a water initiative where they did the same thing. And the State Farm is usually the ones that get caught. Now, if you looked at the Senate meetings earlier in the year, Senator Kim and Senator Crawley or whatever, I think they had State Farm and Allstate under the knife. It was on C-SPAN. They were at Capitol Hill on C-SPAN. They had State Farm, Allstate. They had 3 victims from some type of insurance loss, and then they had the whistleblowers who were the independent adjusters that worked for the insurance company. Blow the whistle on them on C-SPAN, a live Senate hearing. So it's corrupt. Everybody knows it's corrupt, but the thing about it is, what do you think you can actually do with $1 billion industry? Nothing. You just got to strategically fight them, but you're not going to defeat them. But you think about it. 10,000 people fight you and make you pay. 100,000 fight you and they deny your claim. They get more money off of the 100,000 than they do the 10. So they're going to give up 10% of what they lose in order to get 100% of the 100,000. That's just how they operate. Wow. Don't try to go into this by yourself. You're not going to win. If you don't know how to do it, you're not going to win. You best call somebody who's familiar with policy and building science and forensics, and that's what you need.
Well, and I listened to what you said, and that's where I think they'll lose, because no matter how intelligent you are, you may be good with policy, but then you don't know building science, right? You don't know what a building envelope really is. Or you may know the building envelope side, but you don't know policy. So that's where let's say you're a home improvement contractor, but you don't know policy. You don't know how to review policy. So you're challenged on that end, right? So that's where you guys wear both hats, right? And that's where the rubber meets the road, right? Where you guys can get the job done. Now, I did a little research on you guys, and you guys make up 1% of the workforce in the United States, right?
Right.
That means 1%. So there's only a handful of people walking around with the knowledge and the skill set that you guys possess. 1%.
1%.
That's crazy.
And they do a good job of making sure you don't know what a public adjuster is or what they do. And if you say public adjuster, they talk the homeowners out of using the public adjuster, and they say exactly this: why you want to use a public adjuster? They're going to take a percentage of your money. You're not going to have enough money left to do your project. But the thing is because our estimates are thorough, that additional money is already built in. These are the things that the insurance company will not have in their estimate based on company guidelines. It don't have anything to do with policy. It doesn't have anything to do with building code, manufacturer's installation instruction, the minimum standard, ANSI standards, ASTM standards. They don't care about none of that. They only care about the internal guidelines, meaning, oh, no, that baseboard is already primed. You don't need 2 coats. You can just put 1. But the manufacturer's installation instruction says primer and 2 coats of paint. They don't care about that. If the internal guidelines can get them to save a coin, that's what they're going with. And I'm
Wow.
not just saying this to badmouth me. This is based on experience. As the youngins say right now, they got receipts. I got receipts. Everything I'm saying, I can prove. I'm not making it up. I can prove every bit of it. So don't come after me for slander, defamation, because I got receipts.
Okay, you got the receipts, Mister
I
Ten
got them.
Toes, Mister Ten Toes Down. We could do this all night, but we're gonna wrap it up. And first thing is, I want to appreciate you for taking the time out to join me. Here at Fanatic AI Solutions, and this is basically, you know, I mean, this is wonderful information that you put out. Um, how does people find you? How do they? You give everybody your information. How do they find Billy Walker?
Well, if you put Claiminator on the line on online anywhere, I'll probably pop up. Whether it's on the music end or public adjusting or building consultant end. But if you want to contact me directly, damages at paidfairlyforpropertydamage.com. Damages at paidfairlyforpropertydamage.com. That's the best way to get me. You can call in 443-864-7679. Contact me directly. If I'm not available, you can always call the office line at 443-332-8527. I'm here for you.
I appreciate that, Billy. I want to thank you for taking the time out to join me here on Soaked in Knowledge. You soaked everybody in knowledge tonight. I mean, you capillary action them. I learned a little something, like I said, I appreciate you coming out, hanging out with me, Carl A. Harris, the AI
The
Godfather.
AI Godfather.
That's right. That's
Yes,
right.
sir.
And we'll do this again, man. Peace.
Peace.